need to plug my laptop up. Of course, I start recording when I'm not ready. Laptop's gonna die, and whole call's gonna end. Okay. Everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Well, here's our email. 22 units, Devonwood in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I like how they spelled it wrong here, but they spelled it right here. Attached, you will find owner's trailing financials. So you get your T12 financial projections based on in-place incomes. This is going to be the broker's actual projections of what they believe, their pro forma. You got the rent roll, a survey of the property, a working with real estate agents disclosure form. So this is not a broker. This is an agent. Matan? I'll take it. That's what it is. Working with real estate agents disclosure form, new and renewed leases report. Okay. So what they're actually getting for new leases, you'd think they would just put that in the rent roll. That's what most people do, but anyway. Highlights, we've got proven 1070 per month rent on a minimal turn, current average rents of 863 or below the market rate of 1200. With light turns, new appliances, and LVP throughout. Opportunity of more than 35,000 in organic upside annually. T1 to T12 NOI of 140K, 141K, which makes it about a 5.4 cap on the purchase. Projected NOI of 162, which assumes you would be buying at a 6.2 cap, assuming 10% rent increases in year one. Pricing guidance is in the mid 2 million. After viewing the information, blah, blah. Tours will be scheduled by appointment only after receipt of LOI. So they won't even let you tour the property until you submit an LOI. All right, let's jump in. I guess I need to download this. Huh? Devonwood. 12-month. All right. We got from July 2021 to June 2022. Now, I will say, fellas, when people send you a T12, the first thing you want to do is you want to actually confirm that it's a T12, because they're going to send you a document. They're probably going to put T12 on there. They may not even actually know what a T12 is. They may have no idea that it's supposed to be the trailing 12 months of expenses. They just know everyone always says T12. So that's what they put as the title for what they've just sent you. But in all actuality, it could be a T3. It could be a T4, a T5, only the last 4, 5, 6 months of expenses. And I say that just because I wanted to say it, because I analyzed the deal today where they told me it was T12 and it was only a T6. And this looks like it's only a T10. There's nothing for July and August, which makes me think either A, they just didn't want to include the financials for those 2 months because maybe they were horrible, or they didn't have enough data, or they didn't keep good records during those 2 months. They lost it. They changed property management. They didn't have good records when they changed it. Something happened, and they don't want to tell me what's going on in July and August of 2021. Or they bought the property in September of 2021. So they haven't even owned the property in 12 months. So they only have data from September. So what we have to do when we go through and we analyze this is we basically have to estimate this number plus the next 2 months. So the math there is going to be calculator. The math there is going to be, if I had a, let's see, 12, I would want to do 10 times what? 10 times 1.2. Yeah, that'd be perfect. So we want to do 10 times 1.2 for every single one of these calculations, which is going to give us an additional 2 months of what our expected actual 12-month numbers would be, because we don't know, because they're not there. So we're just expecting, averaging out all of what they would collected over the last 10 months and just multiplying it by 1.2, getting the additional 2 months of what that would look like. So we actually have a legitimate T12 estimation of our financials when underwriting. So go ahead and open up another. Open up our analyzer. One,
But
two.
just to kind of do it quick and easy to see if it makes sense or not. That's why you do the 1.2 versus like maybe taking an average of, all those months or whatever, and just putting an average into those first 2 months where you don't have anything in there. Or
Yeah, for me, it just makes it quick, easy.
Yeah.
It's not a super detailed underwriting because again, this initial underwriting that we're doing, we're just trying to figure out if this is a good deal. Is this
Right.
something I need to spend lots of time on, or am I spinning my wheels if I go super in depth trying to analyze this? So if it happens to be a pretty decent opportunity, we get it under LOI, we maybe eventually get it under contract. As we start going deeper into due diligence, I would want to go back and firm up what those financials would actually look like, or I could just give myself a large enough buffer. So here's what the average is. Let's add another 15, 20% on that and not go through the hassle of going through all the details. And we've just got ourselves a large enough buffer. We don't have to worry about it.
Can you zoom in just a little bit more on these?
I can zoom in on this one, but I want to keep this one over here large or small because I don't like going back and forth. So I'll just tell you guys what it is. So how many units was it? It was 22 units. 22 units, repair and reserves. Matan, did they specify what we're looking at from a CapEx perspective here to increase and get those rent bumps?
Yeah. So they mentioned new appliances and LVP flooring,
That was all
but
it
they
needs.
said it's pretty minimal. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna guess new appliance package. Right at $1,500. No, more than that. Entire new appliance package. It's probably gonna be about 2,500. Depending on the caliber that we're doing. What caliber are we doing, Matan? Are we doing white appliances, black appliances, stainless steel?
I don't know. It looks pretty good. Like some of the fixed up units are very nice. So
Okay.
I'm not sure.
If you're gonna get all the appliances, just do stainless steel, right?
Let's call it. Yeah, it's only 22 units. If it's gonna be stainless, it might be closer to 3,500. Call it. Give us a nice buffer there. So 3,500 a unit for appliances times 22. Then we're gonna need LVP flooring. What's the square footage of the units?
I don't have it handy. I apologize.
Square footage. Let's see, we got all the docs here. They add to the rent roll. 988 square feet. Okay, so I'll call it 1,000. So let's say it's a. Let's say it's a 75 cents a square foot to install. 1,000 square feet. $750 for the install. Then let's call it $1.50. You could maybe $2 a square foot for the actual material. We'll call it $2. So 2 plus 2,000. So it's going to cost $2,750 plus we said 3,500 per unit. In total, we're at $62.50 a unit for the actual CapEx. Multiply that times 22 units. We're at 137.5 for CapEx. We're also going to need to add in reserves there. So to give ourselves a nice buffer, we might as well double it and just call it about 250. Which puts us right at that 10% mark. So if we had just wagged 10% of the purchase price, we may have been actually pretty good there on this particular scenario. So for right up here, they have gross potential rent and loss to lease market. Loss to lease is 38,000, but their actual rent collected is 195,333. So I'm going to take 195,333, and again, I'm going to multiply it times 1.2. So it gives me 234,399, which averages me out to be 888 a unit. And they were saying they were at 863. So fairly close. Then they had $38,000 lost there in. Is that vacancy? That's lost lace. So. That's a lot of money. This must have been pretty vacant asset. Vacancies about probably 5%. Looks like maybe even less than that, 4%. Vacancies about 9,000. So call that good. Next we go into other incomes. We've got administrative fee, application fee, pest control, credit builder, late fee, month to month. We got all these different kinds of things. E-premium insurance, tenant charges for damages, miscellaneous, trash income, electricity bill back, water bill back. We got all these different kind of things. And all in all, what that equates to be is 96.55. So I'm going to take 96.55 again, multiply it times 1.2. And my other income potential is 11,586. Looks like that even includes the water bill back. Then we go over expenses. We got turnover expenses. And for turnover expenses, we're at 2545. Multiply that times 1.2, and I'm at 3,054. Next thing we have is ground maintenance. We've got dumpster trash removal. Trash removal is 1165. It's pretty cheap. Multiply that times 1.2. Trash removal is 1398. Dive a little deeper into the next one. Exterminating contract, landscaping. We'll just lump those two together. So landscaping is 10,890. Then we've got 1072 for pests. Multiply that times 1.2. And our contract services is 14,354. Next, we're going to take the utilities here. So we've got electricity resident, electricity vacant. So I'm just going to add those both into electricity. We're at 593 and 77. Multiply that times 1.2. We have 804 for electricity. Next, we have telephone. Not going to include that in there because we're not going to have a telephone. At least I don't think. Matan, are we going to have a telephone? You're going to put in a landline here?
I will not be putting in a landline.
No. Water, we've got 414 and 79. Multiply that times 1.2. We're at 591. So everything must be individually metered. I like it. Okay, employee expenses. So it's our payroll here. We've got 19,640. That's pretty cheap. Multiply that times 1.2. Payroll is 23,568. That's a pretty cheap payroll. I'm guessing that's supposed to be like a management fee, but it says salaries, so we're going with it. Repair and maintenance, they had 0 repair and maintenance. I don't know about y'all, but I find that hard to believe. However, they have a bunch of maintenance supplies that they bought. So for the supplies, they spent 4,202 times 1.2. Then we're going to add that with this. So what we got plus 3,054, and we're at 8,096 on repair and maintenance. Administrative expenses, they spent 3,417. Multiply that times 1.2. Our general admin is 4,100. Advertising, we got $90. All right. $108. Marketing. Okay. Next, we have what they call professional fees. Okay, it's management fee. So there is a management fee. 5,905. Multiply 5,905. Come on. Times 1.2. Management fee is 70.86. This is definitely an interesting setup that they have for payroll. They also have yearly memberships. I don't know what that's for. Other professional fees. I don't know, we'll add them in there. So 375 plus 250. Multiply that times 1.2, 750 for whatever these other fees are. And they had that in the management fee section, so I'll just add that in. 7,836. And that's it. That's total expenses. So the other thing they add after that is they add some of their CapEx expenses, which is usually nice to see like what they've done when they did it, different things that they did. Sometimes you can ask for an actual CapEx like schedule, CapEx calendar, and that's typically what you're going to get. Once you actually get under contract, you're going to ask for a 2-year CapEx schedule, which again, if they haven't owned it for 2 years, then you'll get it for however long they've actually owned it if it's less than 2 years. But if it's been longer, then you want at least a 2-year schedule of when they replaced roofs, what all have they done over the last 2 years as far as CapEx goes, because it's not going to be included in the T12 typically, because it's not actually a part of the overall NOI, which you see here. See, they got their NOI, net operating income, but then they have their actual net income when they add CapEx in there, which is unimportant to you. One thing they didn't add in here was taxes and insurance. Something I would like to see. Let's see if they had it in any of these other folders. This is their pro forma. Maybe they had it in their pro forma. It's disclosure. It's tax exhibit. Nope, that's not it. Survey, nope. Let's try that pro forma. They took the T12 and then created the pro forma. Late fee, pet rent, trash, bill back. They get a little bit more specific in this one. It's kind of nice. Turnover expenses, ground maintenance, utilities, employee expenses, repair and maintenance, supplies, administrative, advertising, taxes and insurance. Hey, there we go. Okay, what's legit? T12. I don't want to look at their pro forma of what they expect it to cost. I want to know what it's actually costing. 18,961 on real estate taxes. And insurance is 13,332. Perfect. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and make this big, and then we'll get back into the property specifics, the rent trajectory in a second. So let's finish updating this. 239, they're pretty rough. I would say in the first year that we move in, or that we acquire this asset, Matan, what do you think? We can probably get a lot of this CapEx done. I mean, it's only 22 units. We can probably get a lot of it done pretty quickly.
Right.
Eliminate, evict who we need to evict, transfer this over to probably closer to say a 5% concession loss to lease, as opposed to the 15% that it's at now. And we can probably do that in the first year, because we'll evict all those other people, have the units renovated, and be able to get the new people in. As far as vacancy goes, they're at 4%. I don't know. I'll probably just keep it at 10% total. So between the 5 and 5, we'll keep it at 10%. I'll keep the other income the same, just for conversation's sake, just because I don't know a lot about what levers we could pull right now. We'll change this to 350, 7,700 on this side of the house. Let's call the management fee 4%, right there on the brink of it anyway. As far as payroll goes, this is just really confusing. I don't see anyone wanting to work full time for $23,000 a year. I don't see you being able to hire anyone for 23 grand a year. However, this is unique because it's only 22 units. So do you really need an on-site full-time staff anyway? Probably not. Probably what you could do is you could eliminate the payroll.
When I was looking at it, rather than putting in payroll, I just added that to the management fee, assuming we could kind of replace whatever staff they did have with
Right.
with just like more intensive management.
Exactly. That's what we're going to do here. As far as insurance goes, let's see. This is not Fayetteville isn't coastal. So I don't know what insurance new premium would be, but let's just call it a 25% increase. So let's take this number, add 25%. And now we're at 16,665 on insurance, and that'll be right in year one. So we'll change that one as well. Real estate taxes, I don't know, column 24,000. Don't really know what that's going to be unless we dig a little deeper. Not 240,000, no sir. But this will still be 18,961 the first year, if they're charging in arrears, which most municipalities are. So 5.25. As far as leverage goes, we're not quite where we need to be on the debt service coverage ratio, but we can look at that in a second. Now let's jump over to let's jump over to what our rent will be. So we can look at the CoStar report. This property, let's see how accurate this thing actually is. Okay. Rent comparables. There's 17 rent comparables in the area. That's good. More than we had, I think, the last time we looked at something. And the average rent per unit is 1,042, which goes close to what they were saying. They said it was 1,067 with our current rent at 860 something or 888 with what we were looking at. And the name of this property, I've already forgotten. It doesn't matter because it's right here. Pinedale Court. They don't actually have a name. 6501. It's built in 1980. They don't have a lot of data for it. Kind of sucks. But what we do know from the stuff that they did send us, we know how many units it is. We know the average square feet is about 1,000 square feet. It's 988 to be exact. And they were all, I don't remember what the mix was. They're all 2 beds. Take it 1 bath. 2 bed, 1 bath. Do they specify? No, they do not. We're going to say it's 2 bed, 1 bath.
It's column C there, 2 bed.
Yeah, they don't specify the bath though. That's what I was trying to find. I'm going to guess 2 bed, 1 bath. So 2 bed, 1 bath. Going back to the CoStar report. Let's go to all the rent comparables. Let's make this thing speedy. Lightning. Okay, 2 bed comps. We're at 1083. Sitting pretty. Studio doesn't matter. 1 bed doesn't matter. 2 bed, that's what matters. And we should be in here. But we're not because they didn't know where we were. However, we know that we were at about 867, 888 for where rent is currently. So we're going to fall somewhere in here. So looking at this, I'm looking at who's higher than me. Family Lodge Apartments, Carlson Bay, all these people are higher. What's the rent per square foot? I get the star rating as well, knowing a little bit more. I think we had 2 stars. So looking specifically at the ones that have 2 stars, being like, okay, this one got 911, this one got 975. This one's all up here at 1225.
Josh, you still there or did you freeze up?
Looks like he froze on my end too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see him or anything. I'd say give him a minute, see if he jumps back in. Oh, looks like he dropped.
Well, that was threw me for a doozy. Glad you guys are all still here though. Go back to sharing the screen. We're still recording. Cool. Yeah, everyone dropped off. The little screen at the top disappeared. I was like, I don't know what just happened. But we found Carolina Place. 2 stories. Let's see, when was it built? Is it going to tell us when it was built? Your built does not tell us.
Maybe fill us in a little bit. So you're looking at the comparables. You were looking at the like 1200.
Yeah, the only thing you missed was me trying to find Carolina Place.
Okay.
Scrolling up trying to find it. But yeah, I was looking at the comparables there. I wanted to look specifically at the star rating, which again isn't the end all be all, but it's a good rule of thumb to look at. That is going to be a fairly close comparable from a lot of different factors. That's kind of how they utilize their comparisons, are the star ratings. So that's going to tell me, I want to know how close it is. It's 1.48 miles away, so pretty close. I'm going to look at their 2 bedrooms. They are at almost 1,100 square feet. We were almost at about 1,000. So they have a little bit more square footage than us. And their actual effective rent is $1,213. So they're actually getting $1,213 a month right now for their 2 2s. So if I had to guess, with 100 less square feet, let's see, does it tell me? It doesn't tell me what their amenities are or what the insides of their units look like. So I may want to I may just want to do a deeper dive on this property specifically, on what are the comparable, what are the interiors actually built out to look like? Do they have stainless steel appliances? Do they have nice LVP flooring? It's central HVAC. Like, what do they have that I need to be able to charge the same? It's basically what I'm looking for. But just using this as a rule of thumb, I'd say we can probably get to 1,150 with 100 square feet less if we had the same amenities. So just for conversation's sake, let's say that we can get to 1,150. So we have all 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, nothing else. 22 of them. We're getting 888 now. We think we can get to 1,150, which is 25.3. So 25.3 times 12. We think we can get to 303.6. With all the same financials. So going into the summary tab now, looks like we're buying at a 5.3 cap. Matan, what do you know about the cap rates in the area?
I don't know much. I don't know much in this specific market. I'm not sure.
So we can go back to this. We can look at when sale comp starts at page 56. Constructions, sale comps. We can look at sale comps in the area, and look at that, there are none. That's great. Okay, maybe let's keep looking and see what they do end up giving us. Cap rates. This is market cap for this area, according to what they're saying. We're currently at Fayetteville's at about a 5.2, 5.3 cap. They expect it to trend upwards, not even to 5.5. And that's over the course of the next like 4 or 5 years. I don't know how much I believe that, but again, we want to try to be a little conservative, but also not be crazy. So they're estimating 5. We will be less than 5.5. They're saying, and we're buying it at 5.3 over the course of the next like 4, 5, 6 years. So, I'm going to say we'll probably be at about a 6. Refine your 3, 4, 5, something like that. That should be conservative enough where we're at. I did a 1.5% acquisition fee. Maybe wanted to keep it at 3 since it's a smaller deal. 75,000 there. Give a pref, don't give a pref. I don't know. Let's just put in some numbers here. 7% pref, 2% asset management fee, no cap transaction fee. Jumping into the P&L. Again, we're currently at 888. We think we can get to 1150. We can probably get to 1150 in the next Probably 2 years, I would say. You can probably finish all the CapEx you need to in this year. You can probably get all the evictions done. You start getting some evictions done, renovate the units after you evict them, get the new tenants in, start transitioning there. So by the end of year 2, a full 24 months, you can probably achieve what you're looking to achieve, especially since it's only 22 units.
Right. And with, just to add on, I know that they're already re-signing leases at, I think, $9.45 a door. So they're already making, 10% growth in that first year.
1150. Almost there. Hey. Call it 29%. So 29% growth. It looks crazy. It looks like how in the world are you going to do that? But at the end of the day, it's not that much for such a small amount of units. Knowing you're going to already have some turnovers. We had what 15% of people that already weren't paying that I'm going to want to evict. That's probably 3-4 units right there. So evicting those people, getting those units turned. You said they're already getting premiums on units that haven't even been renovated. So you're going to get some premiums right away. So I would say this is probably pretty reasonable. Real estate taxes. What do we say? They were going to be at 24,000. Insurance, we said 16,665. It's already there. Contract services, we didn't change much of anything else. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. As far as repair and maintenance, it is very low, I will say. So one thing we might want to do for repair and maintenance is, I mean, I know we're going to be revamping most everything to be fairly new, so there shouldn't be that much repair and maintenance anyway. But 10% is kind of the general rule of thumb. And so I'd say we could probably be closer to 5%, maybe, if we're just to make sure we give ourselves enough buffer there. So that's 11,127.
5% of NOI, 5% of purchase
Total net income. This number. 284,826 times. This one's going to be 14,240. 5%. So that should have automatically changed in here and achieve what we're looking to achieve. 14,241. Okay. General admin, payroll, other deposit replacement reserve, everything else pretty much the same. Okay, when we get down to the deficiencies, let's see, let's let it correct itself. Looks like it was being finicky. There's pretty significant deficiencies. So let's play around with some interest only. Try to give ourselves 2 years interest only, see what that does. 2 years interest only, and we don't have as significant as a deficiency. 6% is a little less. Summertime, let me ask you, with this deal, what's the plan? Is this trying to be a perpetuity deal? Is this trying to be a 5-year flip? Trying to make a little cash on it real quick?
Yeah, I was hoping, I like the Fayetteville market, so I was hoping to do the perpetuity on it.
Okay. Call it 10,000. Let's kind of finish our calculations here before we start really finagling with the numbers. Not going to need an environmental. You're not going to need structural. It's all going to be in your property inspection there. The only time you really need these is if it's more of a new development. Appraisal, 22 units. Shouldn't be anything crazy. Let's call it a 0.5% origination fee. There we go. Check yourself. I don't really know what these are going to be in the state of North Carolina. Is it South Carolina? I don't know. One of the Carolinas. I don't know what that'll be, but that's a placeholder for now. Cost seg on 22 units, maybe $6,000. Real estate taxes, 6 months down, 24, so 12.
Is that 6,000 per unit for the cost segregation?
That's for the whole property.
Oh, okay.
And typically what people charge is 20% down. I say people, Typically, this is what the insurance companies want, is 20% down of 16,665. 16,665 times 20%. 3,333. Lucky threes. We have our acquisition costs. We can start playing around with this, with the refi. Long-term hold will probably be closer to 75% in the next couple of years. 35-year amortization. That was at our 6 cap at the refi, which is what we were estimating here, where we're buying it at. We still have the deficiencies. So there's not too many other levers we can pull unless there's other ways we can add value to increase this other income perspective. As far as a conservative play, I don't think I would want to change much of any of these other numbers here to make the deal, quote unquote, work. Unless you wanted to take less of an acquisition fee or pay less of a pref or not take an asset management fee or give them more equity. But even if you give them more equity, it's not actually going to change the cash flow in terms of how much actual cash you have available for distribution. So that's not really going to help us in terms of the deficiency here. So even if we didn't pay a pref, to have some cash flow, but over a 10-year time frame, we don't even double their money. So if I'm an investor, I'm not too excited. Okay, and that was with the interest only for 2 months. What if we did it for the full, or not 2 months, 2 years? What if we did it for the full 3 years? And then we came in on the refi and we did another 12 months after executing on the refi. We're still only able to return 34%, which just isn't even worth doing the refi at that point. And the returns actually go down. So that didn't help us. All right. So it looks like we may have to pay less for the property if we really want to implement the perpetuity model. Because with the perpetuity model, you're going to need to pay some kind of a pref because the investors, they're not going to want to put 100 grand in and then 2-3 years later get 100 grand back and then get minuscule cash flow. Like they want their 100 grand to grow. They want it to keep pace with inflation. They want to get some kind of return on the capital sitting there while you're working and doing your thing. So that's why you typically have to pay a pref with the perpetuity model. So for that, we'll have to go back and maybe drop the price to 2 million. What does that do? We drop it to 2 million. It's looking much better. Now we're buying at a 6.4 cap. We probably still, I'd keep that at a 6 cap just based on what we saw with the CoStar report. I'd want to do a little bit more digging to be sure my cap rate at resale is still conservative, but we keep that number. We only have a deficiency in the first year, and then we have no deficiencies thereafter. We make it up in the second. Then we're distributing there at 70-30 on the refi. This dead go. On the refi, we're able to return 83% in the third year, which is much better than where we were at with the other number. So with $100,000 investment there, we're looking pretty good, right? They're gonna get 170%. That's of course if we were to sell, which we're not going to sell. So numbers aren't entirely accurate, but as far as cash flow goes, we're looking good on cash flow. We make the pref up. The only last thing is just making sure you get 100% of their initial investment returned in that third year. Because even if we wait to the fourth year, we're only at 94%. So maybe you'll have to tweak a couple of things there. Maybe you could eliminate the asset management fee to try to help you out. What's that do for you? No, it doesn't do hardly anything. Maybe you'd have to play a little bit more with the vacancy and concessions, which you wouldn't play with the actual numbers in the analyzer, what you tell the investors, but that could be something you play with when you actually purchase the asset in terms of trying to get some expenses streamlined. And, 24,000 for taxes was a wag. So you could go in there and dive a little deeper in what that'll look like. Hopefully you can get a better premium on insurance because they're currently paying less for insurance. They're paying 13,332. So maybe you can stay around that price. I don't know, start getting some quotes there. Contract services, dig a little deeper into what they're paying. And if there's any other companies that you could do better with there. Management fee was a big play because we eliminated payroll and got it up to 8%. Maybe you could even get someone to go in and only charge 7% or something for your management. But management is a big partnership play there. So I wouldn't be too skimpy on management fees. You want to make sure you have the right person in the right seat, because your property manager is ultimately going to be the one that makes sure your deal is successful. Repair and maintenance, we were pretty conservative with that. So maybe you can change that number a little bit. Maybe it goes down. Maybe it doesn't go up as high as this. Because maybe you put significant CapEx on the front end here. And so maybe when you dive deeper into due diligence, maybe you find out you only need 200,000. You don't actually need 250. And so if you only need 200,000, returns get a little better. And this thing always in my way. Now you're turning 88% in the third year. So there's a little fewer levers you have to turn to get that 100% payback there. So as far as the perpetuity model goes, it's possible. I think you have to get it for a little cheaper than what they're asking for it to be possible, unless they want to do some kind of creative strategy. Maybe the seller's willing to owner finance something. I don't know. But figuring out what that looks like could be the next step for this particular deal. Now, I will also say this is not something I think we've ever talked about because I'm such a advent believer in the perpetuity model. But there are other models out there. There are other ways to structure deals, there are other ways to syndicate, and you can decide what that actually is going to look like for you when you're looking at your deals. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because another lever that you can pull to make the deal a little bit more juicy, to make the returns better for your potential investors, is you can have different classes, like different share classes that you actually bring investors in on. So you can have like an A class, a B class, a C class. You can have 3, 4, 5 different classes of shares if you wanted to. It makes things a little bit confusing, but some people have 2 or 3 when they go in. I was actually just looking at a deal earlier. It's a guy that just joined the program. I think his name's Jason. He should be joining us on Monday, but he's got a deal under contract in Atlanta, Georgia. And they've got 3 different classes of shares. And when I was looking at it, I was like, this is interesting. And this is probably something I should bring up because I've never talked about it, because I always talk about the perpetuity model. But if you decided you want to do the 3 to 5 year sale, you want to do a flip deal, you want to do a deal that makes you a lot of money fairly quickly, so you can take that capital, reinfuse it into a longer term deal. That's what we did, right? The first 2 deals we did, we sold, flipped real quick, and that helped us propel our journey into the perpetuity model that we have now. We didn't do different share classes, but he did. So the different shares that he has, the first one is a 70-30 split. You get a 6% pref. This is just for his deal, just random example. 70-30 split, 6% pref, up until a 20% IRR, at which point it splits to 60-40. So then instead of 70% to the LPs and 30% to the GPs, it goes 60% to the LPs and 40% to the GPs once you achieve the 40% IRR. So it's a waterfall model. There's a lot of different waterfalls you can do with different deals. So it's a little bit of like a promote structure with that particular share class. And of course, you're participating in the upside. You're going in at the 70-30 split. You're getting the upside when you sell in 3 to 5 years. And that's why they're able to do those shares, is because they're selling. So you can do this different stuff when you're not holding onto it for a long time. The B share, and that was a $50,000 minimum investment, by the way, for this particular deal. The B share is a $100,000 minimum investment, and it's pref equity. And that's really where the uppity side of better returns for your investors comes into play. Because when you bring in pref equity, it's kind of like a debt position. So it's a $100,000 minimum investment for their class B share. You got a 10% pref, but you did not get to participate in any upside. You got no real equity. You got depreciation and you got like tax benefits because it's pref equity and not literally just a debt position. But you don't get to actually participate in the sale upside. So because you don't get to participate in the sale upside, your equity position shifts from a return perspective for your other investors. So all your other investors that are in your deal that get to participate in the upside, let's say you got $10 million that you have to raise. And out of that 10 million, you bring 5 million in for pref equity and 5 million in for equity, like that gets to participate in the upside, just standard run of the mill, simple equity. Well, that 5 million that gets to participate in the upside, they get the other investors' $5 million upside. So they basically get double the bang for their buck. Let's say they put in 100 grand. It's almost as if they put in 200 grand when they go to sell, because they're getting the upside of the investor that came in just as pref equity, that only gets their 10 pref and no actual upside. So it makes the returns more juicy for those investors coming in that want a piece to the upside, but it also gives it gives solid structure, so to say, to those investors that want to come in and they don't want as much risk. There actually are a handful of investors out there that like to go in as a pref equity investor because typically it pays a higher preferred return. So they get higher actual returns on an annual basis. Hence the 10 pref for this particular deal that Jason's doing. But also they are basically in second position. So since it's pref equity, it's as if it's a debt position. So obviously the bank's getting paid first, and then they, as the pref equity, they're getting the first 10% off the top. And then anything additional, then it goes 6% and it gets divvied out to any other investor that has equity in the deal. But it's not pref equity, it's not preferred, it's not like first position equity. So it's a little bit more of a secured, safe investment, so to say, less risk. And that's why a handful of investors like to do that as opposed to just participating in the upside. Obviously, most investors, us all in the room here, we want the upside, we want the equity. That's where the real wealth is built. But that's why that's an option. So you had the Class A share, which we talked about, 70-30 split, 6 pref, $50,000 minimum investment, up until 20% IRR, at which point it switched to 60-40. There was the waterfall. Class B share, that was the $100,000 minimum investment, 70-30 split, 10 pref, no upside at all. Then they added a Class C share in there, which is actually unique. I don't think I've ever seen this before. The Class C share was actually a $500,000 minimum investment. You got a 70-30 split. You got an 8 pref instead of a 6, where the other standard investors are. And of course, you got to benefit in the upside as well with no waterfall. So if you remember the first share, there was a waterfall switch where you got like less actual returns once you over exceed projections on the waterfall piece, which was then 60-40. The guy that's investing 500K, he gets a larger pref. He gets 8 pref instead of 6 pref. He gets to participate in the upside, and he gets his 70-30. It doesn't matter how well the deal does. He's going to get his 70-30 regardless, or his 70%. So that was very interesting. So all that to say, when you're looking at these deals, if the perpetuity model doesn't work, if it doesn't pan out, it's not always going to pan out on every deal. And if it doesn't, there's other ways, of course, to skin the cat, to actually make the deal work. And so that's when you can start beginning to implement different share classes, different structures of how to actually do the deal. Because again, if you're raising, in this example we just used, $10 million, and you've got 5 million in pref equity and 5 million in regular equity, the regular equity investors that actually get to benefit in the upside are getting like double the bang for their buck. So whereas the returns on the analyzer might tell you that you're getting 188% return, if I go up here and I take my total member capital needed to close number here, and I cut it in half, because half of these investors aren't going to get to benefit in the upside, then this number doubles and suddenly the returns are much greater. And that's basically what it means when you're looking at pref equity, because yes, they get the tax benefits and they're going to get the cash flow because they're pref equity. So you also have to make sure that you can actually pay the pref. So it has to be a deal that can pay out the pref. But if it can, and you can include that as a class share, then that's just another unique way to make the deal more juicy than it actually is, by just structuring it in a unique way. I thought that was something fun to share, since I never talked about it before. But were there any questions? Any questions about analyzing deals and anything we just went over before we jump into the next thing?
So with that example that you just went over with the different classes of shares, so that Class C with that $500,000 minimum, I take it, they ultimately have the best return because they're putting in the most money with that $500,000 minimum. So that's to entice people to invest that large amount of money into the deal. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. See you, Lou. It is. Yeah, they want to do the 500,000 was the minimum investment for that share. You got a larger pref. You didn't get the 10 pref. You weren't like pref equity, but you got an 8% pref as opposed to the 6% they're paying the other guys. You still get to benefit in the upside, just like the other guys, but you don't, your equity, your upside doesn't get diluted. So the The other investors, once you hit a 20% IRR, their equity went, the equity per se didn't go down, but the actual payout structure of the waterfall after you receive 20% IRR went to 60-40. So if I do a slam dunk on this deal and do really freaking great, I get paid for it. That's what's called a promote. That's what that waterfall is. So I get paid for doing really awesome, exceeding 20% IRR. Then it switches to a 60-40 and I then get 40% of the upside as opposed to just 30%. But the investors that put in $500,000, it doesn't matter how well the deal does, they're going to get their 70% regardless. There's no waterfall. There's no inversion. They get all that upside, even if we smash it out the park. And so you've got these three different ways that you can attract this different kind of investor for the same deal. Makes the deal really unique, makes it sometimes easier to raise the capital because you've got a lot of different options. It goes into the same thing we were talking about with submitting offers on a deal to a seller. You give them options, they like it. They want to look at your deal longer because they now have options. So it's the same deal that this investor is considering investing in, and you've given them three different options to join. Three different options of what that looks like. Now, of course, not everyone has $500,000, but one thing they could do with the $500,000, just thought about this. This is something some of our investors have done before. Let's say you get 5 guys and they each have 100,000 and they're not really sure that they want to be pref equity, but they want because they want the upside, but they want to not have to do the waterfall either. So you got 5 guys that each have 100 grand. They pool their capital together and they each can put $100,000 into one entity, one LLC that they create for this investment. Call it Syndication LLC. So there's now $500,000 in the Syndication LLC. They take Syndication LLC and they invest it into your investment. They now meet the $500,000 minimum investment requirement for the Class C share. That's the share they want. They're now Class C and they get the 70%, upside plus the larger pref with their money, and they don't have to worry about the smaller pref for the waterfalls or anything like that, just because they came together as a group. So typically a lot of investors out there know other people with money, and it's also another way to be able to easily raise a lot more money because they look at your deal, they look at the different classes that you got, they look at all these different options, and they think, I really want to do the Class C share, but I don't know that I want to put in $500,000 with this guy. So let me go talk to my buddies, see if we all want to do 50K or 100K, pool it together, and we all get to benefit in the mass upside doing the Class C share. Or maybe we want to do the pref equity at the 100,000 or whatever we want to do, right? We pool our capital together. It'll be more powerful that way. And so then it's, like I said, it's sometimes an easy way to just be communicating with one person who then goes out to his little group of guys. We've got one investor that he works in the technology, like the IT space. And he's the main guy that I communicate with, but it's him and like 4 or 5 other guys. And they've been continual repeat investors with us, but they all pool their money together and invest and put it into an LLC and invest into our deals every time they do it. They started out with like 100,000, then they went to 300,000. Then he called me the other day, said he's got 800,000, and they're just like keep growing their wealth together. It's actually kind of cool, but that's another way you can go about doing that. Were there any other questions specifically about the capital raising or the analyzing the deal and everything we just went over? Baton, did that make sense for you from what you were looking at?
Yeah, it was very helpful. I can't say it's what we got at all, but I'm gonna have to take a look and see where I'm, differed. So hopefully I'll have an answer soon.
Okay. Yeah. For free to take a look at that.
Definitely excited about the capital raising part. Doing that's awesome. And all I keep thinking about is that perpetuity model.
Yeah, perpetuity model is pretty great. That's why we've talked about it for so long. And there's definitely a lot of many investors that are interested in that model. There's just not a lot of people. There's only like 2, us and the group, the KP group that showed us how to do it because they were doing it, that actually utilize it. So it's kind of like an untapped market, the perpetuity model. Did anybody have any further questions? Good. Y'all awesome? Sweet. For the next thing, I have like 20 minutes left, but it's nothing crazy that I wanted to go over. Matter of fact,